How are you guys doing? Today is Friday, April 1st, 2022. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to review yesterday's Elite matchups and performances from the last day of March 31st, 2022. And before I preview everything that's going on today, I'm going to take a quick step back and look at where we are in the calendar year. With the month of March being over, college basketball is almost over as the NIT men's tournament is officially over. But the women's Final Four will start today and the men's Final Four will start tomorrow. By Tuesday, we will see the national champion in both the women's and the men's bracket. Taking a look at what's going on the professional basketball level, the NBA is in the last days of its season. All 10 of the teams that have made at least the play-in round have made it to that, have officially qualified for it, as all 5 of the teams in the East have been eliminated from playoff contention prior to the playoff matchups. In the West, of course, it's still up for grabs. Taking a look at what's going on with soccer, soccer is in that transition from the international break to the European soccer schedule that's going to get right back into it this weekend. So, with that said, I'm going to start with the NIT championship in men's college basketball. In this matchup, the Xavier Musketeers out of the Big East would face off against Texas A&M out of the SEC. And in this matchup, Xavier would go on to beat Texas A&M 73-72. They won by 1 in order to win this tournament. They won this game by 1 after outscoring Texas A&M by 9 in the second half. On the losing end of this matchup, the unranked Texas A&M Aggies were led in scoring by their starting guard, Quentin Jackson. Their senior out of Los Angeles, California, will go on to finish with 23 points and 6 rebounds in 33 minutes. He shot 5 for 10 from the field. He would shoot 12 for 14 from the free throw line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Xavier Musketeers out of the Big East were led in scoring by their starting guard, Colby Jones. Their sophomore out of Birmingham, Alabama, will go on to finish with 21 points and 3 steals in 40 minutes. He shot 9 for 13 from the field and 3 for 5 from 3. Additionally, on Xavier, their starting forward, Jack Nunge, their 7-foot junior out of Newburgh, Indiana, will go on to finish with 15 points and 11 rebounds, as well as 2 steals in 33 minutes. He shot 6 for 11 from the field and 3 for 5 from the free throw line. With this win in the NIT championship, the Xavier Musketeers out of the Big East will finish their 2021-22 season with a 23-13 record. With this loss, the Texas A&M Aggies out of the SEC will finish their 2021-22 season with a 27-13 record. Both games in the Final Four will take place tomorrow, and I will get into that once we get into it. Taking a look at what's going on with women's college basketball, it looks as though the Final Four will take place today. Both the matchups that will shape the national championship will be played. The first game will be at 7 o'clock on ESPN in the Target Center, as Louisville will face off against South Carolina. Looking at how these two teams got here, 1 seed Louisville is representing the Wichita region. Looking at how they would make it all the way to the Final Four. In their first weekend, they would beat 16 seed Albany by 32 on their home court. And then they would win their second game in Louisville against 9 seed Gonzaga by 9. Their second weekend would be played in Wichita in the Sweet 16. They would beat 4 seed Tennessee by 12. And then in the Elite 8, they would beat 3 seed Michigan by 12. Looking at how 1 seed South Carolina got here out of the Greensboro region, they would win their first 2 matchups on their home court in Columbia, South Carolina, beating 16 seed Howard, who played in to make it to that round. They beat Howard by 58 in the first round. They would then go on to beat Miami, the 8 seed, by 16 in the second round. Once they made it to Greensboro, they would beat 5 seed North Carolina by 8, and then they would beat 10 seed Creighton by 30 to make it through that second weekend. And that's going to see who's going to be the first team to advance to the national championship. And then at 9:30 on ESPN, immediately after that, within the same building in Minneapolis, the 1 seed Stanford Cardinals the Stanford Cardinal out of the Spokane region, the defending champs, are going to face off against the 2 seed out of the Bridgeport region, the UConn Huskies. Looking at how Stanford got here, they played their first 2 games on their home court in Palo Alto. They would beat 16 seed Montana State by 41. They would then go on to beat 8 seed Kansas by 26 in the second round. Once they made it to the Sweet 16 or the Sweet 16 round in Spokane, they would beat 4 seed Maryland by 6 to make it to the Elite Eight, where they would beat 2 seed Texas by 9. Looking at how 2 seed Connecticut made it here out of the Bridgeport region, they will win their first 2 games on their home court in Storrs, Connecticut, beating 15 seed Mercer by 45 in the first round. They would then go on to beat 7 seed UCF by 5 in the second round. Once they made it to the Sweet 16 round in Bridgeport, Connecticut, without even leaving the state borders, they would go on to beat 3 seed Indiana by 17, and then they would go on to beat the 1 seed in that bracket, the 1 seed North Carolina State Wolfpack in overtime to make it into this round. And the winner of this match will see who's going to be the second team to face off against the winner between South Carolina and Louisville. So, of course, today is going to be a very big day for college basketball on the women's side. By the end of today, there will be 2 teams left competing for that 2022 title. And after these games today, there will only be 1 game left in the women's college basketball season for the 2021-22 year. And then looking at what's going on at the professional level in the NBA, starting off in Detroit, the Pistons would host the Philadelphia 76ers. Pistons coming into this game, even though they didn't have a playoff seed to fight for, they would beat the Sixers 102-94. They would win this game by 8 after outscoring the Pistons by 14 in the fourth quarter to overcome their 6-point deficit. On the losing end of this matchup, the Sixers were led in scoring by their elite starting center out of Kansas, Joel Embiid. He finished with 37 points, 15 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks, and 7 turnovers in 37 minutes. He shot 11 for 19 from the field, 1 for 2 from 3, and he shot 14 for 16 from the foul line. Their elite starting shooting guard, James Harden, would finish with 18 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists, and 2 steals in 38 minutes. He shot 4 for 15 from the field, 2 for 9 from 3, and 8 for 9 from the free throw line. On the winning end of this matchup, the hometown Detroit Pistons were led in scoring by their starting point guard, last year's number 1 overall pick, Cade Cunningham. He finished with 27 points, 6 assists, 4 steals, and 5 fouls in 35 minutes. He shot 12 for 20 from the field and 3 for 4 from the free throw line. Their starting small forward, Saddiq Bey, finished with 20 points in 32 minutes. He shot 8 for 18 from the field and 4 for 12 from 3. With this win, the Detroit Pistons are now 21-56. That is the second worst record in the Eastern Conference, as they've won 3 of their last 10 games. Considering they are 19 games behind the 10th place Atlanta Hawks, also the Nets and the Hornets, that 3-way tie, and they currently have 5 games left in their schedule. The Detroit Pistons are one of 5 teams in the Eastern Conference that have failed to qualify for playoff contention. They sit alongside the New York Knicks, the Washington Wizards, the Indiana Pacers, and the Orlando Magic as the 10 teams that are going to go on to at least the play-in have already been selected in the East. With this loss, the Philadelphia 76ers are now 46-30. That is the 4th best record in the East. They've now lost their last 3 games. They've lost 5 of their last 10 games. In the Eastern Conference playoff picture, they are currently sitting half a game behind the 3rd place Boston Celtics. They are sitting a game and a half ahead of the 5th place Chicago Bulls. With 6 games left in their schedule, the Sixers sit 2.5 games behind the 1st place Miami Heat, as that first seed is technically up for grabs from the Philadelphia's position. Taking a look at what happened in Brooklyn now, the Nets would host the defending champs Milwaukee Bucks. The Bucks would beat the Nets in overtime by 1. They won it 120-119. The losing end of this matchup, the hometown Brooklyn Nets would be led in scoring by their goated starting power forward, Kevin Durant. The 2-time NBA Finals MVP finished with 26 points, 7 rebounds, 11 assists, and 6 turnovers, all in 45 minutes. He shot 10 for 21 from the field, 3 for 6 from 3, and he made all 3 of his free throws on the night. Their elite starting point guard, Kyrie Irving, finished with 25 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 steals in 45 minutes. He shot 9 for 22 from the field, 4 for 9 from 3. He went on to make all 3 of his free throws on the night. Their starting small forward, Bruce Brown, out of Miami, finished with 23 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 blocks in 34 minutes. He shot 8 for 17 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3, and he made all 4 of his free throws. On the winning end of this matchup, the defending champs Milwaukee Bucks were led in scoring by their elite starting power forward, the reigning NBA Finals MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo. He finished with 44 points, 14 rebounds, 6 assists, and 8 turnovers in 39 minutes. He shot 14 for 21 from the field, 1 for 4 from 3. He shot 15 for 19 from the free throw line. Their all-star starting small forward, Chris Middleton, finished with 16 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 steals in 30 minutes. He shot 4 for 12 from the field, 2 for 7 from 3, and he shot a perfect 6 for 6 from the free throw line. With this win, the Milwaukee Bucks are now 48-28. That is the second best record in the Eastern Conference. That is the fourth best record in the NBA. They've won their last 2 games and they've won 7 of their last 10. In the Eastern Conference playoff picture, they sit half a game behind the Eastern Conference leading Miami Heat. They sit a game and a half ahead of the third place Boston Celtics, with 6 games left in their schedule at this point, just to see how close they are, as they can overtake the Heat, as that 1 seed is most definitely within arm's reach for the Bucks right now. With this loss, the Brooklyn Nets are now 40-37. That is the 8th best record in the East, as they have the same record as the Charlotte Hornets and the Atlanta Hawks. They've lost 4 of their last 10 games. In that Eastern Conference play-in picture, alongside the Hornets and the Hawks, they are sitting 2 games behind the 7th place Cleveland Cavaliers, and they are also sitting 6 games ahead of the 11th seed New York Knicks, the first team on the outside looking in. With 5 games left in their schedule, however, the Hornets and the Hawks have at least clinched the play-in round moving forward, as they sit 9 games behind the Miami Heat. The highest seed that they can hope for at this moment is the 5th seed, which is currently occupied by the Bulls. Taking a look at what happened in Atlanta, the Atlanta Hawks hosted the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Hawks would beat the Cavaliers 131-107. They would win by 24 to, of course, clinch the last play-in spot in the East, or at least ensure that they would be the 10th team in the East that would make it. They would do this after outscoring the Cavaliers by 13 in the first half and then 12 in the third quarter. On the losing end of this matchup, the Cavaliers were led in scoring by their small forward off the bench from Turkey, Cedi Osman. He finished with 21 points and 6 rebounds in 27 minutes. He shot 7 for 10 from the field, 3 for 6 from 3, and he shot 4 for 6 from the free throw line. Their starting center, Moses Brown, will go on to finish with 15 points and 13 rebounds in 26 minutes, as he shot 5 for 6 from the field and 5 for 6 from the free throw line. Their all-star starting point guard, Darius Garland, finished with 18 points and 8 assists in 30 minutes. He shot 7 for 21 from the field and 3 for 5 from the free throw line. On the winning end of this matchup, the hometown Atlanta Hawks were led in scoring by their elite starting point guard, Trae Young, out of Oklahoma. He finished with 30 points, 2 rebounds, and 9 assists in 28 minutes. He shot 9 for 17 from the field, 4 for 9 from 3, and he made all 8 of his free throws. The Hawks starting shooting guard, Kevin Huerter, finished with 23 points and 2 steals in 30 minutes. He shot 7 for 12 from the field, 5 for 6 from 3, and he made all 4 of his free throws. The Hawks starting center, Clint Capella, finished with 12 points, 14 rebounds, 2 steals, and 3 blocks in 23 minutes. He shot 5 for 9 from the field. Also, their power forward off the bench out of USC, Onyeka Okongwu, finished with 17 points and 12 rebounds in 25 minutes. He shot a perfect 6 for 6 from the field and 5 for 6 from the free throw line. With this win, the Atlanta Hawks are now 40-37. They are tied with the Nets and the Hornets for the 8th best record in the Eastern Conference. The Hawks have now won their last 4 games. Their 4-game winning streak is the longest active winning streak in the Eastern Conference, tied with the Toronto Raptors. They do not have the longest winning streak in the NBA, as the Phoenix Suns and the Memphis Grizzlies have longer winning streaks than them. But still, the Hawks have won 7 of their last 10 games. In the Eastern Conference playoff picture, they sit alongside the Nets and the Hornets. They sit 2 games behind the 7th place Cleveland Cavaliers. They sit 6 games ahead of the 11th place New York Knicks. And because they sit 6 games ahead of the Knicks with 5 games left in their schedule. The Hawks, Hornets, and Nets have officially clinched their way into the play-in round, so at least they don't have to worry about getting eliminated from playoff contention this early. But that is where the Hawks are sitting right now. And with this loss, the Cleveland Cavaliers are now 42-35. That is the 7th best record in the East. They've now lost their last 2 games, and they've lost 6 of their last 10. In the playoff picture, they are sitting 2.5 games behind the 6th place Toronto Raptors. They are sitting 2 games ahead of the 3-way tie of the Brooklyn Nets, the Charlotte Hornets, and the Atlanta Hawks for the 10th best record in the East, or for the 8th best record in the East as well. And with 7 games left in their schedule, they're sitting 7 games behind the Eastern Conference leading Miami Heat, as of course they are still, the first seed is still within reach, but obviously they're not going to end up with the best record in the East. Taking a look now at what happened in Chicago, the Bulls hosted the Los Angeles Clippers. The Bulls would beat the Clippers 135-30 in overtime, but before they got to overtime, they would outscore the Clippers by 10 to make it there. On the losing end of this matchup, the Clippers were led in scoring by their starting point guard Reggie Jackson. He finished with 34 points, 2 rebounds, and 7 assists, as well as he had 5 fouls in 40 minutes. Jackson shot 12 for 23 from the field, 6 for 9 from 3 as he made all 4 of his free throws. Their elite starting shooting guard out of Fresno State, Paul George, finished with 22 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 steals, as well as 5 turnovers in 32 minutes. Paul George shot 7 for 20 from the field. He went on to shoot 2 for 9 from 3 and 6 for 7 from the free throw line. Their starting small forward, Marcus Morris Sr., finished with 20 points in 39 minutes. He shot 7 for 12 from the field and 5 for 6 from the free throw line. On the winning end of this matchup, the hometown Chicago Bulls were led in scoring by their all-star starting small forward out of USC, DeMar DeRozan. DeRozan finished with 50 points, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists in 43 minutes. He shot 17 for 26 from the field. He made both of his 3-pointers as he shot 14 for 15 from the free throw line. Their starting center, Nikola Vucevic, finished with 22 points and 14 rebounds in 40 minutes. He shot 9 for 19 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3 as he made one of his 2 free throws. Their all-star starting shooting guard, Zach LaVine, finished with 21 points, 4 rebounds, and 5 assists in 41 minutes. He went on to shoot 5 for 17 from the field, 1 for 6 from 3, and 10 for 13 from the free throw line. Their power forward off the bench, Patrick Williams, finished with 10 points, 12 rebounds, and 2 blocks in 37 minutes. He would go on to make all 4 of his shots as he went 2 for 2 from 3 as well. With this win, the Chicago Bulls are now 45-32. That is the 5th best record in the Eastern Conference as they've now won their last 2 games. They've won 4 of their last 10, and considering they have 7 games left in their schedule, in the Eastern Conference playoff picture, they sit a game and a half behind the 4th place Philadelphia 76ers. They sit half a game behind the 6th place Toronto Raptors. And because they trailed the Heat by 4 games, they are still eligible to overtake the Heat possibly this season. With this loss, the Los Angeles Clippers are 37-40. That is the 8th best record in the West. They've now lost 7 of their last 10 games. In the playoff picture, they are sitting 6 games behind the 7th place Minnesota Timberwolves, and they are sitting 3.5 games ahead of the 9th place New Orleans Pelicans. And right now, because they have 5 games left in their schedule, they cannot go any higher than 8th, but they can still be overtaken by the Pelicans as they trail the Suns by 25.5 games in the conference. Last but not least, jumping to Salt Lake City, the Utah Jazz would host the Los Angeles Lakers. The Jazz would beat the Lakers without LeBron 122-109. They won this game by 13 after they outscored the Lakers by 11 in the first half. On the losing end of this matchup, the Lakers were led in scoring by their goated starting point guard Russell Westbrook out of UCLA. He finished with 24 points, 6 rebounds, and 7 assists in 34 minutes. He shot 9 for 18 from the field and 6 for 10 from the free throw line. The Lakers' future Hall of Fame starting center Dwight Howard finished with 21 points and 12 rebounds in 30 minutes. He shot 9 for 13 from the field. He made his only 3-pointer on the night. He shot 2 for 3 from the free throw line. With On the winning end of this matchup, the hometown Utah Jazz were led in scoring by their elite starting shooting guard Donovan Mitchell. He finished with 29 points and 7 assists in 32 minutes. He shot 11 for 22 from the field, 4 for 10 from 3. He would go on to shoot 3 for 4 from the foul line. Their elite starting center out of France, Rudy Gobert, finished with 25 points, 17 rebounds, and 2 blocks in 36 minutes. He shot 9 for 11 from the field and 7 for 9 from the free throw line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Utah Jazz are now 46-31. That is the 5th best record in the West, as they are tied with the Nuggets for that record. They have won 4 out of their last 10 games. In the playoff picture, sitting alongside the Nuggets, they sit 2 games behind the Dallas Mavericks and the Warriors, who are both tied for the 3rd best record in the conference. They are both sitting 3 games ahead of the 7th place Minnesota Timberwolves. And with 5 games left in their schedule, the highest seed that they can go for is the 3rd seed right now, as they can still possibly go into the playoffs with a home seed, or to play at home in their very first series. And of course, with this loss, the Los Angeles Lakers are now 31-45. That is the 5th worst record and the 10th best record in the West, as they are tied with the San Antonio Spurs. The Lakers have now lost their last 4 games. That is the 2nd longest active losing streak in the conference. Only the Trailblazers, have a worse losing streak than the Lakers do right now. The Lakers have lost 8 of their last 10 games. Because they're sitting even with the Spurs for that 10th place, they are sitting 2 games behind the 9th place New Orleans Pelicans. They are also sitting 3.5 games ahead of the Sacramento Kings, as both the Lakers and the Spurs have 6 games left in their schedules to compete for that last play-in spot. So that is what the NBA is looking like following yesterday's matchups. And of course, because today is Friday, it looks as though the primetime matchups themselves are more than likely going to be on ESPN. So, of course, with that said, looking at the primetime matchup, it's going to be on NBA TV at 8 o'clock in FedEx Forum in Memphis, Tennessee. The Memphis Grizzlies, who hold the 2nd best record in the Western Conference and the NBA, are going to host the Phoenix Suns, who have the best record in the NBA. The Grizzlies enter this matchup having won their last 6 games. The Suns have won their last 9 games. Since the Suns sit 8.5 games ahead of the 2nd place Grizzlies, the Suns have already clinched the best record in the West. And because the Grizzlies sit 6 games ahead of the 3rd place Mavericks and Warriors with 5 games left in their schedule, the Grizzlies have already clinched the 2nd seed in the playoff picture for right now. So that could possibly be a future playoff matchup. And then at 10:30 on NBA TV in the Crypto.com arena, the Los Angeles Lakers, who are tied with the Spurs for the 10th best record in the West, are going to host the New Orleans Pelicans, who are holding the 9th best record in the West, as this could potentially be a play-in matchup. The Lakers enter this matchup having lost their last 4 games, and they've lost 8 of their last 10. They sit 2 games behind the Pelicans. The Pelicans enter this matchup having won their last 2. They sit 3.5 games behind the 8th seed Los Angeles Clippers, as the Pelicans have 6 games left in their schedule. So that is what the NBA is looking like for them. But looking outside of the primetime matchups, at 7, the Orlando Magic, who are holding the worst record in the NBA alongside the Rockets, are going to host the Toronto Raptors in Amway. And at 7 o'clock, the Washington Wizards are going to host the Dallas Mavericks in Capital One Arena. At 7:30 in TD Garden, the Boston Celtics are going to host the Indiana Pacers, as the Pacers are one of the 5 teams in the East who have failed to qualify for the playoffs. At 8 o'clock, the Houston Rockets, who hold the worst record in the West and the co-worst record in the NBA, are going to host the Sacramento Kings in the Toyota Center, as the Kings are still playoff eligible. At 8 o'clock, the defending champs Milwaukee Bucks are going to host the Los Angeles Clippers in Pfizer V Forum. At the same time, at 8, the Oklahoma City Thunder are going to host the Detroit Pistons, as neither of these teams have qualified for the playoffs. At 8:30, the San Antonio Spurs, who are tied with the Lakers for the 10th best record in the West, are going to host the Portland Trailblazers. At this moment, the Portland Trailblazers have the worst record out of the teams in the West that are still eligible for playoff contention. And at 9 o'clock in Ball Arena, the Denver Nuggets are going to host the Minnesota Timberwolves. So that's what the NBA is going to look like, at least for those teams. And then in terms of soccer, the soccer schedule isn't really going to pick up until Saturday, which will be tomorrow. But of course, with that said, I do want to thank everyone for listening to all 25 minutes of this piece. I do hope all is well. And once all of today's matchups and exhibitions are done, I'm going to come back tomorrow on Saturday, April 2nd, as we inch more and more into the final weekend of March Madness, what could be one of the greatest brackets on both sides of the aisle. But of course, we're going to ease through this one day at a time. I'm going to follow this up with a preview for the women's Final Four. And with that said, I want to thank everyone once again. I hope all is well. And I'm going to be done. But I'm not. This is going to be my last episode that I do. April Fools. I'm messing with you. Spirit of the day. But I'll catch you with more tomorrow. Thanks for listening. And I'll catch you with more after this. Thanks for listening to my piece. I'm James Sims. This is The Elite. This is Friday, April 1st, 2022. Happy April Fool's Day, and peace out.